What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. The book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. When sex isn't important. You're gonna, you know, some of you younger fellas, younger men and women, are understandably controlled by your sexual urges. A link of the book will be in the description box below. You're controlled by your sexual urges. You don't want to admit it. And a lot of times, you can hear it even in some of these YouTube videos where, you know, what does it all boil down to? You know, money and sex. That's what everything pretty much boils down to, even with the gender war. I made a video about that a very long time ago, saying, the gender war is about money and sex. But the thing about it is, what happens when sex is less important? Well, it's difficult for some of y'all to understand this, maybe. But when sex isn't as important, you get to look at the character of a person. Even if they're attractive, you fine, but you know, you're just not a good person. I would love to have sex with you, but the juice ain't worth the squeeze. When sex isn't important, it makes you. Sometimes it makes the sex better when you're actually having sex because you're not so amped up and horny that you just blowing your load in 2 to 3 minutes because you just want it so bad. And when you get it, you just trying to go hard, super hard, and you're trying to hold back, and then boom, it's over. Because when it's not as important to you, you can take your time. It's actually like, I'm gonna get mine. I'm here. I'm here. It's good. It's cool. And you actually could, the 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 lessening of the importance of sex, even during sex, can make you step back a little bit and experience the actual act more than you would when you're just controlled by your sexual urges and you just want to just get it in, right? That's when you actually paying attention to somebody and the things that they like and don't like and how their body responds and so on and so forth. When sex isn't as important or isn't important, it's easier to see people's intentions, because a lot of times, a lot of things that people get caught up with are normally because you let your sexual urges blind you to the reality. Like, is this person's intentions good or bad? Because you overlook so many red flags because of your sexual urges. You can see people's intentions in their eyes. You can see their intentions in their actions. You can see their intentions in the way they maneuver and move around. You can see it. But, when you're horny, you just playing with fire until you bust a nut, pretty much. And then sometimes you get away and sometimes you don't. And sometimes it's the taking on negative energy from those situations attracts more negativity to your life. And sometimes you're overlooking positive people because your sexuality puts you in a position where you can't discern the importance of positive energy in your life over negative energy because sexual energy is all you're thinking about, which is a problem. Also, when sex isn't as important, how can I say this? you're more focused on your ambitions in life because sometimes you can't accomplish a lot of your goals because sex gets in the way. You saying you focus and you go in this direction, but the ass is over here. And you're like, okay, well, I can still go this way, but I'm gonna get a little bit of this ass and then I'm gonna go back this way. But it doesn't really work like that for most people. Most people like, I'm gonna go this way. Hey, baby. Hey, Miss Parker. And what happens is you all the way over there, you dibbling and dabbling, and you look over and somebody else is living that dream or ambition of yours, and you're trying to figure out how did that happen. It's because you your dream got deferred because of your sex drive. That's just that it just it's just a reality. Um, but if sex isn't as important to you, you can say, I'll get back to that. And sometimes when sex isn't as important, it actually helps you in relationships because you can choose partners better. Because sometimes people choose partners because the sex is good. Just because the sex is good doesn't mean the person is good for you. And having good sex doesn't mean that you should be able to put up with a bullshit person. It just doesn't. And I'm not saying you turn into some type of monk or anything, but what I'm saying is it's okay to have a healthy sex drive, but sometimes it's not the most important thing. Sometimes people's prime example, you know, sometimes your sex drive comes from a lot of pressure and tension. And sometimes that pressure and tension comes from while you spending so much time trying to fulfill your sex drive, you're ignoring your basic needs. And what I mean by needs, food, water, shelter, that type of stuff, right? And your bills are piling up, and your way to circumvent all of that pressure is you want a sexual release. Well, the problem with that is that if you fix the situation first, you know, then the sexual release wouldn't be so paramount to you. But because the sexual release is paramount because you didn't fix this situation, sometimes this snowballs into a bad situation because once instead of handling your business over here, you transfer um, your failures on this end into a win in your sex drive. And those two things are not the same because those bills gonna still need to get paid. So even after you have that orgasm, the lights are still gonna get cut off. You know, and because sometimes, and that's why sometimes people stay in those drama-filled situations. They don't really want to say it or admit it. Is because sex is more important to them than a healthy lifestyle because the drama makes the sex better. You know, and that goes for men and women. That's why people have all the are doing all the buck wild stuff and ignorant stuff. Is because you know it's great sex. You wonder why is she dating them clowns like that or them thugs, and she like why is he dating those hood rats? Well, all that extra stupidity breeds a more extreme sex drive because they need a bigger release. And that's why people who are in sometimes sexless marriages or sexless relationships have issues because life is good. And life is so good that you would think the sex would be great because life is good, but it works in reverse because this person needs drama to make the sex better. But when they leave those situations, they get all the great sex they were looking for, but it came at a price because now, you know, they're drowning in their own drama. So it's not really worth it. But when sex isn't important, as when sex becomes not, when sex becomes less important to you, you'll be able to see the big picture. Because, truth be told, one of the biggest reasons why sex is going to become less and less important is because the more accustomed to life and growth you are, you know it's an inevitable thing. It's gonna happen. It may not happen every day like you want it to, but it's gonna happen. So chill. Like, you know, it's gonna happen organically. Sometimes it's just it is what it is. Even the ugliest person gets laid. Even the skinniest to the fattest persons get laid. You know, the tallest and the shortest, they get laid. It's gonna happen. That's why it becomes less important because guess what? People realize, you know, people was how you got here was fucking. And guess what? While the whole time you was here, people was fucking. And when you dead, people gonna be fucking. And in between that time of life and death, you gonna be fucking too. So it's gonna happen. Chill.